I'm going to try to do this as rapidly as I possibly can because the subject of this interview is Rupert Murdoch, who owns everything except the Grand Canyon. Telecommunications giant, newspaper giant, in so many different ways, a business giant. But our guest is the biographer of Rupert Murdoch, Irwin Stelzer. Listen to these credits. Key positions at two of Washington's leading think tanks, the Hudson Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, teaching economics at Cornell and NYU, and oh yeah, the Sunday Times in London, and a regular contributor to the BBC. I'm terribly sorry, that's all the time we have, Irwin.
Proves I can't hold a job.
All right, so you are at least today's authority on Rupert Murdoch, having spent 35 years with him. What do you most admire about the man?
I think what I most admire is he was the original disruptor. Before the word disruption became widely used. He disrupted things where people didn't have choice, like Fox News. He created choice for people. His newspapers in London created choice by taking on the print unions and allowing new technologies in the newspaper industry. So, and he's got guts. I admire that. Now, that doesn't mean I love everything he does and everything he stands for.
So what do you least admire?
I think he's had an effect on the culture that we have to think about. He did, after all, introduce some of the raciest stuff we see on television. That might not appeal to you. It doesn't bother me much because I have a remote and I know how to change the channel.
And there were those attractive women in the newspapers.
And there are attractive women who report the news today on Fox News. If you don't like that kind of stuff, then you don't like Rupert. You can't take part of him. You got to take the good and the bad together. Net, I'm on the good, but I recognize there's a lot of bad stuff in there.
But what is the Murdoch Method, though? Observations on Rupert Murdoch's management of a media empire. And boy, it is an empire.
Yes, it certainly is an empire. And I think that the method is this. You define the culture of your organization. His organization's culture is it's us versus them. It's us versus the establishment. So people want to get up to go to work in the morning because they feel they have a mission. And then second, you intervene yourself when there's a crisis, when there's a deal to be made. I've gone to meetings with Rupert where there's just the two of us sitting there and maybe 30 guys on the other side. So you can't cocoon yourself in some very nice high-rise building in New York or Los Angeles. So he's a hands-on manager, and he's very smart.
But you and Rupert Murdoch recommend that with choices, we should all pay attention to both Fox and CNN. Yes. And those choices. But truthfully, do we?
Well, I don't know about we, because I don't want to pretend that I speak for the American people. I do, and I recommend to people that they do. In other words, if you're going to read the mainstream press, the New York Times, so on, you should read the Wall Street Journal's editorial. If you're going to watch Fox News, you should find time to watch CNN, and vice versa. Because after all, you should make up your own mind about these things. And the only way you do that is by hearing both sides. And there's a great tendency today to just want to hear your side of it to get reconfirmed that you're really right. Well, be a little humble. You're not always really right. So you
well, here's the real pressure, though. Here's the real pressure on you. Having worked all over the world, now you have 1 minute or a little less to answer these quick questions. Compare Rupert Murdoch to William Randolph Hearst.
I would say that I would come down on the side of Rupert on this as a better media manager because he had to do it across many media. Hearst had to just do newspapers, and Hearst was self-aggrandizing. Remember, he wanted to run for president. Rupert is one of the most modest people I've ever met, so I come down for Rupert.
So therefore, then, in comparison with Donald Trump, you don't see a great deal of comparison?
No, I don't. I see that both have a sense of what people who feel they were not listened to for the past 8 years want to hear. But Rupert, I've dealt with him a long time. You don't need a contract when you deal with Rupert. And the Rupert on Monday is the same Rupert on Tuesday and Wednesday.
In brief, that's the Murdoch Method. and you can read all about this remarkable man, as written by another remarkable man, one of our residents here in Phoenix and also the rest of the world, Irwin Stelzer. This is available in bookstores everywhere.
I hope so.
Thank you, Irwin, for joining
Thank you.
us. Back in a moment.